living longer, living healthier, living better than ever before. Welcome to Mountain Pacific's Healthy Living for Life, a weekly series that gives you the information, education, and expert insight you need to become an active participant in today's ever-changing healthcare climate. Here now is today's program host.
It beats more than 100,000 times a day and more than 35 million times per year. You guessed it, we're talking about your heart. Do you know what you can do to improve your cardiovascular health? On today's show, we'll talk about how you can be cardiovascular healthy and about cardiac rehabilitation. Welcome to Healthy Living for Life, a show dedicated to helping you do just that. I'm Lisa Sather, your host. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Healthy Living for Life. Joining us on today's show is Britt Ballinger from St. Peter's Hospital, who's here to talk about the cardiovascular system and cardiovascular health. Thanks for being on our show again, Britt.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So when we talk about the cardiovascular system, what organs exactly are we talking about in the body?
Well, the big players in the cardiovascular system are, of course, the heart and then the blood vessels that carry the blood cells to all the tissues. So it all kind of works synergistically, but the big players that we focus on are the heart and the blood vessels.
Okay, cool. So can you give us an overview of some of the types of cardiovascular diseases that are most common?
Mm-hmm. The most prevalent one that people can prevent is hypertension. That's high blood pressure, and that has to do with the constriction in the blood vessels, and it's very hereditary and very treatable. Over time, that can cause damage to all the organs, especially the heart. And of course, there's coronary artery disease, which is blockages in the arteries that feed the heart muscle. There's arrhythmias that can cause electrical problems, causing the heart to beat erratically. Those are the big ones that we treat in cardiology. Okay,
awesome. And so if someone has a heart-related event, how does that person know if he or she would have heart disease or a heart-related condition? I mean, how would you know that?
If you are feeling generally fatigued, of course, women have more vague symptoms than men. Men have the classic crushing chest pain more often, although I've seen women have that too. But just vague general fatigue, shortness of breath, chest pain, of course, that mostly on the left side or radiating up into the jaw or through the back. But if you're just not feeling right, it's a good idea to go in and see your doctor.
You were speaking about women. That brings to mind to me too. Are women more likely to have a cardiovascular event than men? Are there stats that tell us that?
They're not more likely to have an event. They're more likely to die of it, partly because their symptoms are a little more vague, but also partly because women tend to ignore things and downplay them. They are affected at a later age. Men start to be at higher risk at age 55, and women start after menopause at like 65.
Okay, thank you. So if a person thinks she or he may have a heart condition, what do you recommend? I think you kind of hit on it earlier, but
yeah.
Any other?
Well, just doing the general things for good health. Exercising every day is a really important thing to do, because if you start to feel bad, then something's not right. But it's also just good for your health. Controlling your blood pressure. If you're diabetic, keep it controlled. Get regular checkups. Talk to your doctor if you have concerns. If you have a family history, definitely keep an eye on your cardiovascular health.
So one of the big questions that always comes up is, what is the difference between a cardiac arrest and a heart attack? I think people always are interested in knowing how that works.
Okay, so a cardiac arrest is when the heart beats too fast to deliver blood to the tissues or stops altogether. A heart attack is when there's a blockage in the blood flow to the heart muscle. A heart attack can lead to a cardiac arrest, but they are different things and they can be separate.
So is one of those more likely than an electrical type malfunction then?
The cardiac arrest is more of an electrical malfunction.
Okay. What would be the symptoms of a cardiac arrest then if someone was experiencing that they would be needing to look for?
Usually a cardiac arrest is just someone goes down and passes out. Sometimes it can be temporary pauses in the heartbeat or arrhythmia that resolves on its own, so they could have chest pain or shortness of breath or pass out and then wake up.
What are the causes of sudden cardiac death? We hear that.
Some of it's genetic, Some we can't, so a family history of sudden cardiac death is really important to be aware of. If you have coronary artery disease, you may be at more risk for that. If you have had heart trouble in the past, like cardiomyopathy where your heart has weakened, you are at a higher risk for sudden cardiac death.
Okay. Anything else you want to hit on that we haven't hit on just in these few moments? We do have a little bit of time before we have to go to a break.
Okay. You know, the biggest risk factors for coronary artery disease, which is more preventable, cardiac arrest can be related to coronary artery disease, but the other causes of cardiac arrest are not really preventable. They're genetic. So to give yourself the best chances of having a good outcome cardiovascular wise, it's the best idea to control your risk factors. And to do that, the ones that you can control: exercise, eat a heart healthy diet, control your blood pressure, absolutely don't smoke. And you know, the family history, just be aware of your family history and talk to your doctor about what you can do to put yourself on a good path for cardiovascular health. But exercise is really the most important, in my opinion.
Yes, I think that makes sense to folks. Now, we always wonder why people are asking about family history in an office visit, and that's exactly why they need to know.
Right, yeah.
Okay, great.
And for exercise, they recommend 30 minutes most days of the week. You don't have to go out and run a marathon. Just get your heart rate up a little bit and move your body for 30 minutes.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
You don't have to kill yourself doing it. All right. We're going to take a quick break, Britt.
Okay.
Thanks for that great information. As I said, up next we'll be talking about what you can do to strengthen your cardiovascular system. We'll pause here for a short break and we'll continue this conversation after these messages. Stay with us.